Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. I call this meeting to order. I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Ms. Condor to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? I'd like to note for the minutes that Mr. McQuillan and Ms. Kelly are joining via phone. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it, 8-0. We'll now move on to agenda item 1C, approval of the minutes from the board meeting on June 9th, 2020. I'll now entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Ms. Littleton to approve the minutes from the board meeting on June 9th, 2020. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 8-0. We'll now entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
Make a motion.
Second.
Got Mr. Ramsey for the motion. I didn't get the second.
Second.
Ms. Littleton, thank you. The stated purpose of executive session is the discussion of pending employment matters to include appointments of administrator and 3 student attendance appeals. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 8-0. We are now in executive session. We'll now entertain a motion to return to regular session.
Make a motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Ms. Littleton to return to regular session. Is there any discussion? I'd like to note for the minutes that no action was taken in executive session. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. Please now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll now move on to agenda item 4, citizen comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comment that do not adhere to the guidelines. First up is Kelly Marone on the topic of communication.
Good evening. Trust is something earned, and unfortunately, once lost, it is very difficult to gain back. I have spoken previously about distrust within Berkeley County School District, and I have some concerns along with solutions. The Reno model of trust and betrayal teaches how 3 C's can develop one's ability to trust an organization again. How? Communication, character, and capability. Solid and precise communication reflects character, conveying one's capabilities. I was at the J.K. Gordine public session last week, for example, and it is very clear the residents of Berkeley County believe and expect address verification. The overcrowded sections of the county seek to verify those out, while rural areas seek to keep students in. Verification should be happening every year, every school with correct documentation and physical verification. Another example, funding for each school has individual specifications. By having out-of-the-box thinking, how amazing would it be to have schools zoned fairly to distance and each student in the district experience same educational programs they are entitled to? Lastly, it is very disappointing to know our faculty and staff are required to sign a contract without knowing specifics or changes that could transpire. To me, that is like signing a contract for a 2-story house and finding out on closing day my home is now a ranch. Reno's model is a secret gem. Communication, characterization, and capabilities will earn the trust that is well deserved. I, Kelly Marone, will continue to advocate Berkeley County residents for Berkeley County schools. Together we can make a difference. Our district and children's future depends on it. Thank you.
Up next, we invite to the podium Jen Gibson of the Task Force.
Hi, my name is Jen Gibson, and I'm a mom and a resident of Berkeley County. I'm also the Democratic nominee for South Carolina House District 99, and education reform is my primary focus. I'm here tonight to express my concern about the lack of transparency and the lack of diversity on Berkeley County's task force. We have multiple stakeholders to consider: students, parents, teachers, and the support staff in our district. And within each of these groups, there are diverse needs. There is no way we can create an equitable learning environment that meets the needs of students and their parents and protect our district's most valuable resources, the teachers and our school support staff, without a more diverse task force. Do we have teachers from Title I schools on the task force? Do we have special education teachers, school counselors, food service workers, custodial staff, IT professionals, parents from households with parents working in and outside of the home? These stakeholders hold the solutions to every challenge and problem this task force will identify. We cannot incorporate their solutions into our plans unless they are part of the task force, though. We need diversity within these stakeholders groups so that the solutions will work for all of our district's families and teachers, and not just some of them. Our teachers are underpaid. They do not have adequate time to create lesson plans. They need stability from the district now more than ever. They need guarantees they will have a job and continue to be paid throughout the year. They need time to create virtual learning environments for their students if that is the decision. Teachers and support staff deserve to know if they will have a job for the entire 2021 school year and that they will be paid their salary so they can pay their bills. I am here tonight to ask you to increase transparency about who is on the task force and how they were chosen. The state is giving tremendous autonomy to local districts to make decisions how to safely educate our children. I'm here tonight to hold you accountable for that responsibility. Thank you.
Up next, we invite to the podium Jenna King, Growth and Development Planning.
My name is Jenna Kane. The enrollment timestamp of the student most recently added to Cane Bay Middle for the 5th grade is May 11th at 7:43 a.m. 6th grade is January 22nd at 11:47 a.m. 7th grade is February 25th at 10:48 a.m. 8th grade is May 11th at 7:38 a.m. These timestamps are based on when a child has registered. Now, parents don't know how many are between us. We can only compare the last enrolled child's timestamp added to our child or our children's timestamp. I fear for how many will be added going forward. My concern is the growth and development. Our district has new apartments coming in front of Cane Bay. They're just being built right now. We have new apartments in Nexton. Those have just started being built right now. And we have those on State Road between Main Street and Devon Forest. And you guess it, they're not occupied right now. We also know Nexton is building and growing. Cane Bay is building and growing. Carnes is building and growing. And every road and surrounding community is building and growing. There is one K through 8 school in the works for opening in 2 to 3 years. Other than that, we have nothing. As our district grows, where will those kids go to school? How many will be overflow students and sent to another school? How long until we get to the point where we have no more space? Where will our children go when there is no more room? Once a cup is full of water, the excess water has to go somewhere. I ask those questions, but more importantly, I ask, how do you fix this? It's not just impact fees. We were told to go to builders. We were told to go to developers. We are hitting dead ends at every attempt to seek help for our children. We need your guidance. We need your help. Thank you.
Last to the podium, Clint Eccles came to bless you. You could use something.
Hi, God bless you all. I'm Clinton Eccles. I serve with the community with Fellowship of Christian Athletes as the area director. Came here 4 months ago to bless this board, to commend you for what you do. My Bible teaches me that I'm supposed to be respecting my governmental authorities. I've got to be praying for the king. I've got to be living at peace with all men. And I come again just to remind you that I'm here to do that. That's my goal. But through Fellowship of Christian Athletes, by giving students an outlet for them to express their faith and exercise their faith on campus, always following, of course, the rules that are in place for that, meeting before or after school, or in a way that in no way interferes with the education system and respects all others' beliefs and opinions. I've met a lot of fantastic young people. And I want you to know I met a young man at Goose Creek High School and developed a relationship with him. And his father has been out of jail only 3 years of his entire 18-year lifespan. And in about 20 minutes, I'm getting back in my car and I'm taking him to a disc golf course. And we're just going to play disc golf together. I'm going to have a relationship with him and build that relationship with him because he didn't get the father figure that he really deserves. And I'm going to build into that young man's life. Because this community permits Fellowship of Christian Athletes on campuses, I get to meet another young man at Cane Bay High School. About 40 minutes or so before school starts, he gets dropped off there by his mother because she's got to be at work at 7:30 in the morning, and he has to wait until the doors open up. And when I met him, I said, what's got you in Cane Bay? And he goes, well, we moved down here from Ohio. I said, well, why did you do that? And he said, well, we had to move out of the drug belt of Ohio. I really don't even know what the drug belt of Ohio is. I can imagine it's not fun. But they came here seeking a solution. And I met him through Fellowship of Christian Athletes, invited him to our meetings, and now I'm a mentoring relationship with him as well. I could tell you multiple more stories, but all I'm really here to do again is to commend you, to respect you, and say, I pray for you as a board. I pray for you all as a team. I love your teachers. I love your coaches. And I try to walk with them as closely as I can. My wife is baking cookies and caramel bars for so many teachers and coaches you just can't imagine. All right? But I'm here to be a part of the solution. And once again, I signed my name on that card and gave you my email address. And if I can in any way serve you, support you, pray for you, I'm here to do that. God bless you. Thank you.
We'll now move on to agenda item 5A, action as required from executive session. I'll start with Ms. Condor.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Christina Matthew as the new literacy MTSS coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020.
Second. There's a motion by Condor, a second by Walford, to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Christina Matthew as the new literacy MTSS coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020. Is there any discussion further? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Ms. Matthew. So she brought her daughter with her, who was very accurate before she got here and said this would probably be quite boring. And she might have been right. So we will take a quick picture to celebrate, and then y'all can go do something more fun.
3, 2, 1.
Congratulations. Mr. Ramsey.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Leander McWiggin as the new Special Education Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 1st, 2020.
Second. The motion is to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Leander McWiggin as the new Special Education Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 1, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. Ms. Bradley.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Tammy King as the new Special Education Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th of 2020. Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Bradley, a second by Ms. Littleton to accept the recommendation of the administration. Ms. Tammy King, the new Special Education Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes. I can't find it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Arthur Jashinsky as the new assistant principal at Nexton Elementary with a contract to take effect on July 13, 2020.
Second. The motion is to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mr. Arthur Jashinsky as the new assistant principal at Nexton Elementary with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. He's already standing up. Congratulations. I think you brought folks with you. I think you brought a little crowd with you. So tell us who's with you.
My parents, and then my wife and my children.
Photo op. We would like to take a picture. Thank y'all for coming to support.
Have a good picture.
Yeah, small big.
Let's do what? Let's come up here.
Yeah.
Let's all go up in front of
It's honestly the highlight, so we'll be happy to take a break and enjoy the moment.
Stand here and face me, please. All right, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Congratulations. Yes, absolutely.
Last but not least, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Lori Cox as the new Career and Technical Education Work-Based Learning Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by Littleton. Again, to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. Lori Cox as the new Career and Technical Education Work-Based Learning Coordinator with a contract to take effect on July 13th, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations. We love to see those coaches with those wives. We saw Coach Stewart here a couple weeks ago, and now Coach Cox, so letting their ladies shine, so congratulations. We are thankful for all of the appointments tonight. Taking on leadership positions is never easy, certainly in a very unexpected time to take on leadership positions, and we are happy to have you step up to the next level at Berkeley County School District. So thank you. I know you sat in here and it was hot for a long time. If you would like to stay, feel free. If you'd like to go home, we would give you a minute to go to the house. So congratulations. We'll now hear student attendance appeals. We'll start with a motion for student number 1.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to grant the appeal for student number 1.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Mr. Ramsey to grant the appeal of student number 1. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. In the case of student number 2, I move that student number 2 will be handled administratively.
Second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by McQuillan, Littleton. Did I pick you up, Matt?
Yes.
McQuillan. For student number 2 to be handled administratively. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. Now, student number 3.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we grant the appeal for student number 3.
Second. There's a motion by Littleton and a second by Wofford to grant the appeal of student number 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. That concludes business from executive session. We'll now move on to committee reports. We'll start with Chair Ann Conder, the Committee on Academics and Innovation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Committee on Academics and Innovation met on June the 9th, 2020. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditures Report for April 2020, Head Start Credit Card Report for April 2020, Head Start Calendars, and prospective new hires.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the second reading of the 2020-2021 local board approved and innovative courses as provided.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Madam Chairman, that concludes my report.
Next is the Committee on Finance and Human Resources, Chair Michael Ramsey.
Madam Chairwoman, the Committee on Finance and Human Resources met on June the 9th, 2020. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the first reading revision regarding deposit of funds and cash in schools as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the 2020-2021 salary book as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the second reading of the 2020-2021 general fund budget.
We have a recommendation from a committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Would like to say earlier tonight, note for the minutes that we held our required public hearing. There were no public comments. There were no changes from when the budget came from committee last time. Also, the state has not passed a budget, so we're operating on the recommendations from the state, which include no step increase. This board is not happy about that or in favor of that, and as soon as it can be rectified, it will be rectified. We are expecting something from the state in September. At that time, we hope that we'll be increasing the budget, but we will rehear the budget when the state approves the budget. But that could, honestly, it could go up or down. We're hopeful that revenues will come in and we'll be able to address the step increase at that time. Any further discussion about the budget? Since we kind of heard it in two things and some people weren't here, I think that's the 5-second overview. All right, hearing no other comments, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2020A and taxable Series 2020B for an amount not to exceed $60 million.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? For the minutes, I need to record that Mr. McQuillan has submitted a recusal in writing and will not be voting. He will be abstaining, and that has been submitted according to board policy in writing. Is there any further discussion about the bond sales? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It passes 8-0, 1 abstention.
Madam Chairwoman, that concludes my report.
Next is the Committee on Facilities and Capital Planning. Chairman Matt McQuillan.
Madam Chairwoman, the Committee on Facilities and Capital Planning met on June 9, 2020. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve donating the land to the county for the road widening project.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the revised.
It reads, I move to approve the revised 2020-2021 bell schedule as presented. We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any further discussion? Would like to note that the full bell schedule was debated in March and was recommended to try to repair some of our bus arrival and departure issues. I know everyone isn't necessarily happy about getting up earlier or the bell schedule changing, but it was fully debated in March. I think some people watched last meeting and thought that it was not fully debated, and it was. All we are doing here is we're making a slight adjustment for the schools that are on the same campus, like an intermediate school and a primary school that are on the same campus. That's correct, Mr. Jackson? And the K-8s. But we did have a full presentation and discussion, but the purpose of the bell schedule changes is to try to address our transportation issues. And so we've hired a new transportation director, we've done a transportation study, and it was brought forth that the bell schedule, in addition to routing, were two of the underlying causes of our transportation problems. So that's I always ask, what problem are we trying to solve? That's the problem we're trying to solve, is our transportation issues, which is the reason the bell schedule is changing. I got a couple questions on that, so I wanted to address it.
Are we doing any better with bus drivers? Excuse me, Madam Chair. Are we doing any better with bus drivers, hiring bus drivers?
We've actually been pretty successful, even despite the closure, with our advertising, getting some candidates in, make some recommendations.
Can you give me a number of candidates?
Not right off the hand.
But we have had classes to start. We have gone back to having bus driver training classes, so we're intaking.
Okay.
Great.
Because the schedule doesn't work if we don't increase the number of bus drivers. We're still putting a lot of work on those that we have. So I just want to know if we're getting any better with it. There's money allocated for bus drivers, additional bus drivers. So that incentive is not out there.
We are being successful as far as recruiting additional drivers.
Okay.
So we have less vacancies now than we did at this point.
Okay. I'll hold you to that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 9-0. He must be in bad coverage. But that does conclude his report. We are actually now to the superintendent's report. Dr. Ingram, I see you got a couple of line items, but I just want to say right off the bat, this has been a very stressful couple of months, and I am very proud of where we are. I know there's lots of work left to do, but thank you for the guidance and the leadership and that of the cabinet. We are grateful, and I know there's a lot of work that's going into your report tonight, so thank you.
Quite a bit, and I would like to say we did complete all of our graduation exercises this past week outside. We had an alternate plan. I thought it was a good plan. The weather cooperated, thankfully, and we had outdoor graduations where we allowed 4 guests per graduate, which was the most across the state. Most allowed. If they allowed any, they allowed 2 or none, and some districts did virtual graduations. They all came across without a hitch. And I can't pass this opportunity up. It's just too funny, but I'll try to be. I've been a part of these things for 39 years now. It's the first time I've ever had an assistant principal literally give up part of his wardrobe for a graduate that needed a wardrobe repair. And it was done in good taste. It was done discreetly, but he basically gave up his britches. So, that goes above and beyond the call. And I'm not going to identify him, but I know y'all are going to say, okay, who was it? But really, it's, and all kidding aside, we had folks, teachers off contract that were working. We had volunteers from Central Services getting up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, set chairs out. Just a lot of people worked really hard to make it come together, and I'm very appreciative. And I believe the graduates really appreciate it. We graduated 2,240 seniors, and that was no small feat. The other irony, I usually don't respond or say anything about any of the speakers because it's not our policy, but I did type this before the comments. Our reopening task force, which will include teachers, parents, and students, will be meeting in the boardroom on July 8th from 1 to 5 p.m. I believe Lacey sent that invite out. I think you have. And we're still collecting survey data, so I want everybody to know that. And I want to emphasize that our student participation. We feel it's really important to talk to our high school kids as we wish for our students to be at the forefront of our final reopening decision making. And with that said, I'm going to yield the remainder of my report to Dr. Kelly Wolf, Chief Academics and Innovations Officer, and then over to Dr. Tony Parker to update our capital projects plan and current projects. And Dr. Wolf, calling you first, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Dr. Ingram, members of the board, it's an honor to be back with you. A month ago, we brought forward some different pathways that we could build out in terms of how we could get very innovative. Today, we want to bring to you 3 very distinct instructional models. But before we do that, I really wanted to acknowledge our virtual learning team that has worked very hard over the last month to really flesh out some of the details that I'm going to give you tonight. Some of those are in the audience. We have Dr. Houston in the back, Katie Stapleton, Stephanie Piegler is one of our high school teachers from Berkeley High School. On that force, we have Amy Ray Smith, Anthony Dixon, Carol Bartlett, Jen Crowley, Katie Ty. We had 2 leads that were just phenomenal. Jenna Wells is our coordinator of virtual learning, and then we had Dr. Taylor Bradley from Berkeley High School that I have with me tonight, an assistant principal. He literally just got his doctorate in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on technology education, so we're really proud of him. So he's going to help present for us tonight. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is we really have 3 instructional models. The first one is just traditional. We call that, it's just a synchronous model. It is the basic classroom instruction that we've been doing for all of these years. Our other model is really asynchronous, which is a virtual model. That is really more self-directed. That was one of the models when we got into e-learning that we immediately flipped to, but we had a lot of lessons learned as we got into our e-learning or modified e-learning, is that there is no replacement for a classroom teacher. And we really needed to emphasize that we needed more of a blended distant model where we are emphasizing that direct contact with the classroom teacher. So this committee has come together. We have developed out roles, responsibilities, a very thorough model, a 55-page manual that's about ready to go out that's really going to define out what this distant learning model looks like. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bradley.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. I am here, and I'm actually really excited to talk about this. I currently serve as assistant principal at Cambay High School, and this is the product of a great deal of conversations, a lot of back and forth as we get the guidelines from Accelerate Ed. But I think Berkeley County is on the precipice of something truly incredible, and I'm excited to work on it with you. So our blended distance learning model, the idea behind it is we want to give students the ability to engage with a classroom teacher, but in a situation that they feel comfortable with. Specifically, those students who might not be able to come back to school or who have underlying medical conditions or things like that. And this isn't necessarily just for COVID-19. This is something that we are looking at across the board. So in a blended distance learning model, students will be present in their home. Teachers will be teaching in a synchronous fashion. So a student will come into a classroom with a teacher, and the teachers will take attendance all virtually. They'll be live streamed through Google Meets. We have that infrastructure right now. There'll be independent student work. There will be a great deal of teacher support. We're actually right now working on the admin and teacher protocols for that instruction. The IAET is it's an educational technology organization. They have a list of standards specifically for virtual instruction, and so we're developing an observation model based off of those standards so that we can keep teachers and administrators and students accountable as we go through that e-learning process. So that ties in with that commitment to academic integrity. There's feedback and assessments, again, through Google Meets, Google Classroom, and we are also looking at designated school testing sessions because we do understand that sometimes kids need to come to school to take tests. We have things like AP testing, especially in the higher grade levels where there's not necessarily an opportunity to take those tests at home. There's also the consideration to traditional based on enrollment. So it's not necessarily you're in blended distance one day and then you can just pop back into the school the next day. There's going to have to be a discussion about that based on class sizes and those items. We offer currently the virtual item, the virtual option, mostly for our 7th through 12th grade. It's through virtual SC and BC VLP. That's something that our high school teachers and administrators are very familiar with. Again, they have those same protocols for high quality instruction, that same commitment to academic integrity, and that same feedback, but it's done in an asynchronous method. So students don't have to be face-to-face with a teacher in that virtual instruction. The difference, the big difference in blended distance learning is that we're going to have a teacher face-to-face with those kids, which is something we didn't get in what I'm calling the emergency e-learning. You know, there wasn't always a teacher face-to-face. I think that in March, nobody knew what we were going to see. And we learned a lot from that experience. But I want to make it very clear to everybody that what happened in March is not what blended distance learning is going to be. I think our teachers rose to the occasion in a great way, but this is now we've had time to flesh out a plan, we've got a manual, we've got people working on it, we continue to receive feedback from principals and teachers and everyone involved in the process to make this the best that it can be. And it's something that we're fortunate coronavirus occurred in this way because it allows us to kickstart this program and move it forwards. And like I said, I'm just super excited about it. I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of a passion of mine, educational technology, so.
When he emailed me after the last board meeting and said, "Can I be on the committee?" I'm like, "Absolutely, come on."
Sign yourself up, we will take you.
Yeah, so he refers to it as the expanded virtual committee because we just expanding with folks that are really passionate in our district and have just a tremendous amount of knowledge to bring to really make this happen. So registration is going to open up in July. All of our parents and students are going to have to express their intent of whether they want to go to a traditional or an online option. That could be K-12, that virtual, or it could be that blended learning model that we just talked about. Families, if they do choose the traditional model, they will be on campus with all those safety and precautions that we will be putting in place. In the event that we would have to close schools completely, all teachers will move to that blended distance learning. We are committed to ensure that every student is getting direct contact, direct lessons with a teacher every subject period. It may not be the entire 50 minutes, but every portion of direct instruction for that class needs to be coming and streaming to that student. And that's how I believe that we can ensure our kids are learning what they need to learn. If families choose to go to an online option, they will be going through some parent orientation training along with student orientation because we really want to make sure that parents really understand what the expectations are if you are going to go to an online option. We will be having a website that's going to go live that has resources that will help parents to go through some guiding questions to determine which option is the best for their child and their family. Any questions?
A couple of questions that I have, and I've spoken directly with some principals and seem to be concerned about not necessarily the method of instruction, but how it's going to look in terms of social distancing and so forth, as well as bus transportation. I understand you can only put 50% of the max on a bus at the same time, and that's from the state, I understand. But I was under the impression that the blended model would be a combination of a traditional and the online. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. There's been some discussion, the possibility of having students, particularly high school students, on an A-Day, B-Day, where if they attend school in a traditional model on A-Day, then B-Day they'd be a part of the online or blended program. Is that something that we're looking at?
We believe right now the 3 instructional models that we're presenting are the best models. We really want to make sure we've tried the blended model, and our students didn't get, we heard from parents, they didn't get that direct instructions. So that's why we're moving away from a blended model and going to a learning model. It really is about streaming lessons.
So children and families that choose the traditional model will be at school every day.
Correct.
And then the online could be either blended or the online instruction?
The online, they would be at home.
Yes.
And that could be through SC Virtual, that could be through our virtual franchise, or we could go the route of a blended distant learning, where they would be at home streamlining in for direct instruction.
With actual classroom instruction from teachers?
Correct.
Would the teachers be at school or at home?
They would be right now we are anticipating them to be at school.
Okay.
We are surveying, we've surveyed parents, we're getting ready to survey teachers, and then when we get more data, we can then determine what staffing will look like.
Do we have any forewarning from the state that traditional model, they are actually going to require the social distancing?
I don't mind answering that at all, and I really appreciate what the state has done and tried to do. It's a monumental task. Having worked at a State Department many years ago, not in this state, but in another one, we've got 80 plus districts. Some of them are very small, some of them are large like ours, and so one size will not fit all. But I do want to say this publicly about bus transportation, for instance, and I've talked with many people about it, even a couple of board members. You know, we heard the term, I didn't hear it personally, and I'm glad I didn't, because I'm glad I didn't, but if I'm not mistaken, we heard the term creative routing. Now think about that for a minute, folks. Think about that, creative routing. If I live here, I still got to go to school here. I still got to go from my house here. That you don't creative route that way. For grins and giggles, our transportation director did a 3-tier system, scratched it out, I believe. And if I'm not mistaken, he said bus drivers would be driving longer than would be maximally allowed in a day. Is that correct, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
I believe so. And by the time kids got dropped off, they'd be turned around and taken home. So we can't do what is being asked. You know, we're the largest county geographically. We are larger than the state of Rhode Island, 1,200 square miles. We move 22,000 kids a day on 200 buses. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, you can say creative routing all you want, but Kid A still got to get to this school, can't change where he lives, can't change where he goes to school. And some kids are going to need that transportation. So we have to sanitize as often as possible, acknowledge what can be done, what can't be done, and put that out there. That's what I think we have to do. And we've talked about transportation, A day, B day. Well, and you guys know this is going to happen. It's no fault of anybody's. It's just the way it is. We're going to have some 8 or 9-year-old show up at a bus stop on B day when he's supposed to go to school on A day, and we're not about to leave him there. So think of, we got to think of the reality and the practicality of what we're being asked to do with the buses, And I'm not trying to be cavalier. I'm not trying to be a showboaty, because that's generally not my style. But that's a reality. So it's better to just tell the public that, look, we can't creatively get Eddie Ingram from his address to his school, because Eddie Ingram still lives at his address and he still goes to that school, and he's got to cover the same distance. So that's the bus transportation piece. The social distancing piece, I think we have to do the very best we can. Certainly, I think giving parents all the options we can give them is great. But truth be told, not every parent has a real option. We've got some parents that they've got to go to work. I mean, they have got to get back to work, and their kids have got to go to school. For some parents, it's quite frankly easier if they choose a virtual option. if we were to do an A day, B day, and that's, that's why the task force is so important. We need to hear from competing interests. We're trying to deliberately put parents on there, but some of them want virtual, some of them want face-to-face, because we feel like we need to hear, everybody needs to hear everybody else's other side. Because everybody knows their own truth, but you need to hear the truth of the other folks. So, and I think we can come out with better logistics that way, or a better idea. But we wanted to do as much groundwork as we can and give people as many options as we could instructionally. So on an 8A in a 2,000 student high school, if only half the kids come every other day, then we have a much better shot at social distancing than we do if 70% of the kids come every day. But I don't know that I can guarantee it. We took a risk when we allowed 4 tickets for graduation. I think folks did their best to socially distance. Households stayed together. Our safety and security people literally marked off every 6 feet, I guess, or boxes. See Joe out there, you went to all the stadiums and got that going, and I think people really tried to adhere to the rules, and I appreciate the cooperation. But and then we got to remember, if we do go A day, B day, we've got kids with younger siblings, and a lot of times parents depend on their older children to take care of their younger children. So that's a dilemma. So we need expanded task force folks, for lack of a better term, with competing interest to talk and get in the same room so we can come up with a model, because the challenge is we need to get this plan in stone 20 days ahead of school starting on August 17. So that would be July, I don't know, I was an English major, 28, July 27, 28, somewhere in there. So we've got some time, but we got to kind of put up, roll our sleeves and get some work done. But we wanted to do some preliminary work and just focus on the instructional models so that we could have these available. And I like giving parents as many choices as humanly possible. But we're not going to be able to do everything. But we need the task force folks to come in and help us with that. And again, we're still collecting surveys. Right now it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, was it 35% are choosing?
As of today, about 32%.
32% choosing the virtual option. And then we were criticized by some, and I get it. 2 questions. Well, we didn't want a 10-page survey, and we didn't want to offer more options than we could possibly deliver. And we really wanted to get a baseline. What are you thinking? Are you thinking we want to come back, we want to stay, out? I know people, one pretty close to me, who is terrified. She's absolutely terrified. And she's not a nut, she's terrified. She's a relative of mine, very close relative. And we want to be able to help our parents feel that they've got the best options possible, that we're doing the very best we can, but we want to acknowledge if the state has challenged us to do something we can't do. And I don't see how we can possibly put 50% of our students on buses and get them to school and travel all those places. I don't even think it's fair to ask us to do that, quite frankly. And I made that known in writing. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to clean often. Our bus drivers are going to wear masks. We're going to encourage kids to have face coverings and masks. And we'll do social distancing the very best we can. Some schools, it's just by virtue of their enrollment, it's much easier than it is in other schools. So but again, the work's not done. We're still hashing this out. These are not easy problems. But I'm confident in the staff, our teachers, our principals, really confident in our students. We saw that when they sat on panels with most likely to succeed. They stepped up to the plate. They told us the truth. And, we need to ask our kids more often sometimes what they want because it affects them the most. So we're going to get more feedback loops, and I wish we had the answer today. Truthfully, the situation may change in 2 weeks. You know what? If we put something in stone tonight, it might change in 2 weeks. I'm not trying to say that I want anything less than a full opening. We all want that. Every one of us wants that. I want it. But you got 23 Clemson Tigers out there with COVID-19. You've got 30 Texas Longhorns with COVID-19. Tennis, which is my game, I'm 400 yards from the Volvo Car Stadium, and I'm killing myself because I can't watch the players in person. I have to just watch it on TV. And the male players, it's always guys doing stuff wrong. But they had that type of series in Europe last week, and they decided to go clubbing, and bam, 4 top players got COVID. So there goes so we don't want to. We want to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So I want folks to know we don't have just 2 options, but we wanted a simple feedback form so that you could say, okay, I prefer this, I prefer this. I get it. And you know what? If circumstances change 3 weeks from now, you might be saying, boy, I wish I'd answered that survey differently. Why didn't you have that? So we need the task force. We think we've got a good one. We've got a meeting July 8th, 1 to 5. We're going to structure that. We've got a framework to start. So, we'll build from there. Probably said too much, but I think that's the reality. And I don't know how to be other than that. So, Kelly.
We had a lot of parents also wanting clarification, and that's why we wanted to present tonight what those options were, because when we were in modified e-learning, that was 200 minutes of instruction a day. This is not 200 minutes. This is a full instructional day, and just assuring them that there would be live streaming. So it is very different. That's why we're calling it distant learning and not a blended learning model, because we had a lot of independence. So I wanted to give enough information to our parents, our community, so they can make informed decisions when they do fill out that survey.
Dr. Wolf, when you say live streaming, will a teacher be teaching children in the classroom and that is live streamed to the children at home?
We are working, that's going to depend on the details of our staff, how many want to go online, but they would be able to live stream with other kids with the teacher actually teaching direct instruction portions of the lesson.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would, say for instance, if my child went to distant learning, would she be connected to her high school, or would my son be connected to his middle school, or is there going to be a separate entity that is Berkeley County School District virtual school?
We are not creating a virtual school at this time. We're expanding out our virtual application that we have with the state for off of our franchise. So they would be a student of record of the school that they would normally attend, and attendance would go back to that school.
So that principal, that guidance counselor, that support staff at that school would continue to be that child's school?
Correct.
So if a parent says online and then they realize it's very labor intensive because we're going to direct contact, and I absolutely advocate for this. We struggled. I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, very bright children. We don't want to homeschool ever again. Their mama is not their teacher. They have wonderful teachers who are not their mama. But that's checking in at 8:30 and going to a class and taking attendance. That's difficult. It's different than what we did before. So if I'm a parent and I sign up for that, and then it's like September and I go, oh dear Lord, this is not for me, there will be a transition process to possibly move that child back to the traditional setting?
There will be. We are putting some guidelines in place because what we don't want is that a student would go, I'm going on vacation for a week and so I want to go to distant learning and then I'm going to come back. So we will have some criteria in there, but they will be able to come back if there is a seat available.
What plans have been made for children with special needs or special disabilities?
We have actually Katie Stapleton that has been on this committee and working through what that looks like with our special needs. I will tell you, for our highest need populations, they really need to be face-to-face, online, and we're going to really be doing some counseling with our parents and our teachers that we're really encouraging those folks to come in. But if they can't, we are looking at virtual options for speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We even talked about doing home visits to do therapies so that we can keep those going as well if we have a child that's medically fragile and just can't come in.
There's no right answer. There will be a multiple of answers that help us get to a better place than we are now, and then we'll move forward. And it really is an opportunity to jumpstart technology in a way we've never used it before, to make us adaptable, to make children adaptable, and really hone those work-life skills that we think are the most important. But to say it hasn't been a physical or mental challenge or even a emotional challenge for what kids have been through, even very well-balanced, healthy children, this has been very, very, very stressful to be away from their social structure. I'm a big advocate for going back to school and being face-to-face because I feel like there's a emotional need that is hard to meet any other way. But if we can't, having that direct face-to-face contact with those teachers who can pick up on cues and see things that other people can't see, and for our teachers to be connected to kids. I saw lots of teachers comment through this process that that's the bright spot of teaching, is that human connection to that kid. And then when you're sitting in front of the screen and they're sitting in front of the screen and you miss that connection, it makes it really difficult. So thank you for a lot of hard work and more work to come. I know somebody was talking about the task force earlier, and I'm thinking, I think we just started putting people on the task force like today. So I don't know if everyone knows. We haven't announced everyone who's on the task force because we're still inviting, but it is a good mix of people. So thank you very much.
Dr. Ingram, Madam Chair, I'm here to give you an update on our facility planning, construction planning, and before I get started, I just want to make a comment, if you will allow me. I've been in this business 40 plus years, and it is truly amazing to me the challenges that you have now. I don't think anybody could have ever conceived of this kind of a challenge in our school district, and certainly in education. But I admire what this school district is doing, and the quality of people that you have working in the district is tremendous. And I work with a number of school districts, and if any of them would like to look at other employment opportunities, I'm sure that we could work with them on that, but not anytime soon, certainly. You've got a great staff here, and I'm certainly impressed with your staff and with the leadership of the superintendent. Tonight, I want to give you an update on where we are as far as our 5-year plan and also the projects that we have underway. Before I do that, I want to hand out some information on this presentation that David Hogue is going to give to you. And also, the superintendent and I have been talking about, what are the estimates that we can give to the superintendent and to the board on what school costs would be. And we're developing prototype models. We have just completed the design efforts for the new additions at Cane Bay Middle and Sangaree. And I'm going to talk more about that in detail. And we have visuals over here on your side that you can look at, and we're handing you information on the presentation tonight as far as the update on our 5-year plan. Now, when I first presented our master facility plan to you and the 5-year goals that we were setting, we had a different set of circumstances then than what we have now. The economic situation in our country right now is really in a bit of a flux. A lot of people are out of work. There's a lot of people that are questioning and being concerned about the future, and certainly I think that is the least of many of their concerns. But in working together, in focusing on what we can achieve and what we can do, I think that's what you've got to have in your mind as far as a goal for right now. I mentioned to you that we have been dealing with design with our architect. Mosley with the middle schools. Now, the design phase, a lot of people don't realize how much goes into the design phase. Architects are going to give you basic design options. But the staff here has got to use our ed specs, our educational specifications, and make sure that the architects follow those specifications that you approve. In addition to that, there are certain elements within design that we know will be in the best interest of the school district and the students. So all of that's got to be incorporated. We have finished design as far as the 2 middle school additions. Now, before we can get into the bidding process and start construction, one of the things that we've got to do is look at the traffic pattern. And we knew that we had a problem as far as the elementary, the Cane Bay Elementary, Cane Bay Middle School traffic patterns. If you know where the roundabout is, a lot of the stacking of cars in bringing those students to school in the morning are caught up and are out in the roadway there all the way around the roundabout. Now, the first thing we want to look at is the elementary change in the traffic pattern. And if you're looking, you've got it in the information I handed to you. You've also got it up on the screen. What we have done is we have taken the traffic pattern and we've redirected it, working with our engineers. Now, in looking at the traffic pattern here, the cars will come in at the entrance here next to the middle school. Has everybody got this?
No.
David, did we hand those out? Mr. Barrett didn't get one.
Okay.
Thank you.
The cars traditionally in the past have come in here, and they brought their students into this stacking pattern here, drop the students off, and going out here. you don't have enough stacking there as far as the cars to get them off the roadway. So the change will bring cars in at the bottom of the map and bring them around, all the way around in front of the middle school, all the way around, and you can see the blue line there, and out this way. Now what this adds is 2,600 linear feet. And you may say, well, what does that mean as far as car stacking? Cars approximately 22 feet in length. That gives you about 90 car spaces as far as stacking. What they had previously was 2,000 linear feet, which was not enough as far as stacking is concerned. This, we believe, will give them ample stacking. The additional thing that we had to do in looking at the site is you had parking down here where the red is, and that's our addition. We had to take that parking out, and we shifted the parking in front of the school. And my arrow is pointing to that now. You also have additional parking over here on the side and a small parking lot here at the entrance going into the school. Now we have given the school more parking than they had previously, but we haven't been over zealous in giving parking out, because our site is really tight there. But we have what we believe is enough parking. The key issue was the stacking for the elementary school. Now, the question about let me go back to the previous slide and talk to you about the bus entrance. The bus entrance will be where the old car entrance was, and it will come around where you have the yellow arrows and drop students off in the back of the school here for the buses. And they'll circle back out this way. Now that's for the elementary school. Now let's look at the middle school and what we will do with the middle school. The buses will come in at the top, up at the corner of the elementary school, and they will come through here, dropping students off right here, and circle back out. Now your car access as far as the middle school is concerned, they will be coming in up here at the top, dropping students off in front of the school here, and circling out here.
Dr. Parker, they have two different attendance times.
Yes.
So the loops will be running.
They're staggered.
They're
Yes.
staggered. That's what I thought. I just wanted to.
Yes. All right, that had to be done and in place by August, the beginning of school. The actual construction on that has already started Monday. So that's in the process right now. But there's a lot of detailed things that had to be done with this. Consulting with engineers, hiring the engineers, working with the architects on this as far as the design pieces of it, absolutely critical. All right, the Cane Bay Middle School additions, you'll see here at the bottom, and that's taking in the parking area that's currently at the school. You're adding 4 science labs, 12 regular classrooms, 1 extended learning center, 2 resource rooms, and we have 1 set of restrooms, student restrooms. That's the girls' restrooms and boys' restrooms. 1 teacher workroom, 1 set of staff restrooms, 15 additional parking spaces that we're adding to the campus. But this is the middle school addition at Cane Bay. and we're proposing the opening to be in 2021. All right, at St. Marie, as far as stacking and as far as the traffic patterns there, we're going to go with what was originally designed for their traffic patterns. You have stacking that comes in off the main road here, circles right in front of the school, comes behind the school in the green line there, and circles back out here. Now that stacking pattern gives us ample stacking places to take the traffic off the main road. The buses come in where we have the yellow lines here, arrows, and back out this way. We have enough space there. We didn't have to make any changes on that part of the plan. This is the St. Marie additions here. We have 3 science labs, 12 regular classrooms, 3 resource rooms, 1 set of student restrooms, 1 teacher workroom, and 1 set of staff restrooms in here. Now we're taking an option on this one, and that option would be additional 2 classrooms, just depending on budget and what the bids come in at as far as when we take the bids on these projects. Any questions on these additions that you might have?
Looks great. The money is in the 8% money, and that budget will come forward in July.
That's right.
Excellent.
We had some of that money in this year's budget, and it's coming to the next fiscal year budget. All right. The other big item for us that we've been working with engineers on is the land purchase for the Carnes Crossing K-8 school. And I need to preface before I get into this that we just hired, the board approved the architect's contract. The architect is going to design a K-8 model for us. The K-8 model, and I've given you some information on what you approved as far as optimum size for schools. The K-8 model will have 1,200 students, 2-story school. What we're proposing to the architect, and he's in design right now, is that you'll have a media center on the lower level. All elementary students will be on the lower level. You'll have a media center on the lower level for elementary students. You'll have the middle school students on the 2nd floor with a media center on the 2nd floor. And the components in the design, you'll have a gymnasium, activity room, multi-purpose room, and all the space that we require for a K-8 school. Now, this is the actual land here that is outlined in red. Now, we've been working on this design for the layout of the design for about 2 months, a little over that. We're working with ICE, is an engineering firm in Charleston. We're working with them on this. And the footprint that you see here, this is the school footprint in the dark gray. That's the actual footprint that we're proposing with Dennis Ward Architecture. And Dennis has been working with us on that. He's in the process of designing the school. What he will be doing is designing the K-8 model for us, also designing the small middle school model, 1-story, and the large middle school model, which will be a 2-story school, 1-story school for 1,200 students. So he's doing all 3 models for us, prototype models, at the amount of funds that the board provided for us to get those done. Now, let me mention a few things about the site. The road coming in off of 176, there's going to be some renovations to that road. And at the same time, we hope we can piggyback on the county and take bids for the access road coming off 176, and that's right here. That would be the 176 access road coming into the school, and it would go around this way. Now that road, we were talking about and negotiating that it should be a 4-lane road. I'd love to see that road be 4-lane coming in there and give us plenty of access, give enough traffic patterns that we wouldn't have issues. Now, one of the things you heard me talk about the issue over stacking. One of the things that we have done here, our entrance is going to be right in this area. We have stacking that would come all the way around here. And this is going to be the kindergarten area here. They can drop off the kindergarten students, primary area of students, then circle out. If they have elementary or middle school students, drop them off in the front of the school, come out this way and circle out of the campus. Stacking there, we've got a 193 car stacking pattern there that we've been working on to try to get enough stacking there so that we don't present a problem for the county. If you look at Fox Bank, the stacking we have at Fox Bank is not adequate. It backs out on 52. What we're trying to do is get enough stacking in there to where we don't back out on the 4-lane road coming in or on 176. And I think we've got ample stacking to take care of the students there. We got a baseball field here, we got a softball field here, and if it is lighted, this is middle school standards. If it is light, we can light it and really accomplish the lighting the way we've got the fields laid out. We've got 2 high school regulation soccer fields here, and we believe that will be an advantage not only to the school, but certainly to the community as a whole there. Parking here, we've got 280 some parking spaces in this parking lot here. We've got parking in the front of the school here, and we've got limited parking around the side here. Our bus loop is coming in this direction and circling out here. We've got playground space over here for the kindergarten students. We've got playground area here for elementary students. And we believe that design layout for this school is second to none. It really has come together nicely. But what I want you to understand is a lot of work that goes into getting this kind of layout and getting the kind of design that we have here.
Dr. Parker?
Yes.
Without throwing a wrench into this, what is the expected growth when this opens in the fall of 2022? And are we going to be opening this school, and will it be full the day we open it?
One of the reasons we did our master facility plan is try to project growth. We're working diligently with Mike Miller with numerics, and we're trying to project growth as best we can. We're really challenged as far as growth right now in this area. And I don't think it's going to let up on us. It's a matter of trying to meet the needs as best we can. Being fiscally responsible, but at the same time trying to meet all the needs that we have. There's some real challenges. And I think this school is certainly going to be filled up when it opens. And it will relieve a lot of the overcrowded situations that we've got at Cane Bay Middle and certainly Cane Bay Elementary. But you're going to need more schools in this area, without a doubt. And the challenge is, how do we provide those schools? The superintendent asked me 2 weeks ago to do some research for me and take a long, hard look at what the needs are going to be and how we're going to meet those needs. I talked to a number of financial advisors in looking at, and Dave Bear brought up an issue of bond referendum, which, that's an option that school districts can use. But at this time, the financial advisors that I've talked to, First Trine, Davenport, that they believe this is a bad time for a bond referendum. They suggest looking at alternatives. And I propose to you impact fees, sales tax as good options. We've got one developer that has already agreed to impact fees, and we start collecting impact fees in July. That's a great option as far as funding and helping us acquire land and helping us to improve existing schools. But it's not the solution. The 1 cent sales tax certainly is a solution, and we were on target to put that on the ballot. The problem with the coronavirus, it has presented us with challenges that we never expected. Now, I talked to a number of superintendents in school districts with various sizes. Many of them, as we talked about bond referendums, they suggested to me that they're delaying, if they had plans for bond referendums, they're delaying them. Or they're reconsidering their options based on the economy, based on the economic impact that we're experiencing right now, and based on the fear that some have that a bond referendum would fail right now. You can put taxes, additional taxes on people that certainly can't afford it. You also have to look at the history of bond referendums. Our last bond referendum, we went $90 million, and you know this, you went $90 million over the projected amount of the bond referendum. You're the ones that had to pay that $90 million and come up with it. That experience with the voters, I'm not sure would lend itself to voting in favor of bond referendum. I told the superintendent, I don't think it's, and I said this in a very objective way, I don't think this is a good time to look at bond referendum.
I guess my point is that if we're going to build a building versus adding on to other schools, would it not be more fiscally responsible to make a larger school to begin with?
That's a good question, and it certainly is one that has been asked many times. Schools and the people in here that have been principals of schools and have worked in schools can get too large as far as the management of the school. You can't just keep building onto the school and building onto the school. Yeah, I was a principal of a high school of over 3,000 students. That school was built for 1,200 kids. I had 80 mobile units in the back of the school. We had a school in the back of the school. And when it poured down rain and you try to get kids to class, you got a real difficult situation there. The optimum size, and I'm giving you optimum size. Sometimes you can go with that, sometimes you can't because of need. The optimum size for a high school, large high school, is 1,800 students. Optimum size for the middle school is around 1,200 students. Elementary, you go up to 1,200 students. 8 to 1,200 students. Middle school, 8 to 1,200 students.
But am I not correct in that entire school, middle and elementary, are 1,200 students?
1,200 students. Now, I will say this too. If you look at the back side of the school, right here, we are stemming off all the connectors there as far as your power and utilities, and you could actually come in here and close in this U and bring up the capacity to 600 students, 1,600 students.
Would that not be less expensive than coming back in the future
It depends on the dollars you've got available. What we're projecting this school to cost is $38.5 million. That's hard cost. That does not include your land. That does not include your permitting. It does not include your furniture. It does not include your technology and all those soft costs. Now, if we came in here and we said the cost of school is going to be $38.5 million, that wouldn't be accurate because you got to put furniture in the school. You got to put the soft cost in the school as well. And you can't look at it and say that this is a total figure. Now, some of those things can be owner provided because we can get it cheaper than maybe the architect and contractor. But that can be negotiated. But I need to say that to you, that's the cost I'm giving you here is hard cost. Now, your soft cost is going to be around 15 to 20% of the hard cost in that ballpark.
I just don't want to put a school up and have it open with trailers next to it. So that's my concern, is do we build a building that is going to have 1,600 kids able to go to it, or do we put 1,200 kids and a half a dozen trailers?
Well, what we were trying to do in looking at this is meet the space need with the dollars that are available. And
I understand funding's an issue. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I do know funding's an issue.
And we've got, in working with the financial advisor, the superintendent, his staff, we had a certain amount of money available. This was the most we could get at this time. We hope things will improve fast to where we can move forward with additional options, financial options in the future.
The other thing that's in the big plan, but not in our plan, is there is a charter school very near here that's 800 students. That's going to be, I guess, kind of near the Wildcat track and opening very near time as this school. Although it's not our facility, it will relieve some attendance of the attendance in the area. It's just hard to predict, but it will be a state charter school, and they are already in the process. Have they broken? I don't know if they've broken ground, but I do know they've gone through the application process and they're in the planning process.
All right, quick update. Any questions on anything I've said thus far, Mr. Superintendent?
And I think we covered what we talked about. We really wanted the cost of the prototypes because once they're in place, you would rebuild the same design over and over and over. And that's a mammoth savings over time rather than, trying to build different ones. And then that gives you an idea if the board were to go. And again, I don't promote one or the other because I can't and I won't. But if you ever did do that route, you would have an idea of how much to go after because you know about
The one plus with prototype models is the more the contractors see the same model, the more they build it, the better prices you get. There are no hiddens there. And the plus that we have in working with FW Architecture is the Berkeley County owns the plan. The architect does not own this plan. We own the plan. And that's important.
It's a big cost savings for future.
Down the road, it will be tremendous cost savings, and you're setting a process for the future expansion of the district.
So Michael and I meet with the financial advisors very frequently. We actually had a call yesterday looking at our 8% money. And the intention is that we will have a school under construction always, that we will be building this school and we will be planning the next school. Traditionally, multiple schools under construction at the same time are very hard to manage. Just is, whether you're pro or against bond referendums, it's very difficult to build 3 schools at one time.
Well, you can just see what happened last time. $90 million.
We missed
Again, $90 million with the last school bond referendum was overspent. The school district overspent $90 million.
And it took us multiple multiple
My gosh.
budget cycles to get our head back above water and get, and not to bore you all to death, but there's a lot. We have a credit rating, just like you have a personal credit rating, how much money we have in our reserve fund, how we pay our bills. We have over $500 million worth of assets. We're a huge organization. But from the new money perspective, there is new money every year, and it increases, and in about 7 years, it greatly increases because we're able to draw more on our millage because we won't owe other bonds, so we will have more money to draw. But you can be building a school and have the next school planning in forever, which is what you really need to do, because if you go for a bond referendum, you have to list the projects, you have to say exactly what they're going to be and where they're going to be, to some degree of definition. If not, people think you lied to them and didn't build what you said you were going to build. The next 3 schools are very clear. 4 gets sketchy. 5 is harder to tell. But if you're building this K-8 in Carnes and you're planning the next middle school, which is, somewhere in between Fox Bank to Judgeburg Road over there. Maybe it's Nexton, maybe it's Fox Bank, maybe it's somewhere in the middle. It's hard to tell. We haven't, gotten there. But if you're building this school and you're planning the next middle school, and then the next school is also a middle school, you're planning the next middle school, and then while you're building that middle school, you're looking at a high school, because that's when your money comes in your 8%. We have done a tremendous amount of planning. I know sometimes people see the fruits of our labor as 2 or 3 hours every 2 or 3 weeks. But I spend somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week working for school board. Lots of folks spend equal amount of time putting in on this. We have a very robust facilities plan. We have a very robust projection of where people are going to be building houses and where apartment buildings are going to be and all those kinds of things we're planning. But we have a book that's about this thick that is a plan that did not exist when I came on this board in 2014, but does now. But I really think that always building a school and planning the next school is how you make good decisions. You use the prototype model. You provide where people need it, when people need it, and you're also a good steward. So you're constantly building forward. We're not able to accomplish the first 2 years of this plan because we overspent $90 million, and it took us multiple budget cycles to get straight. But we've gotten there. So now going forward, it's a very positive projection for our 8% money. And then long term, I really do think you seriously pursue 1% sales tax. It can only go on a major year, so it has to go in 2022 is when I think that will happen. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I've worked a lot with Ashley. We've worked a lot with First Tryon, spent a lot of time with Tony. Michael has been right there with us as chair of the Finance Committee trying to guide this process. So I just don't want there to be some perception that, we've just been chilling and not planning for what's coming next. We've worked really hard to get here. These prototype models and all this time we've put into this prototype model is huge for what we have to do next. So.
And to your point, Madam Chair, we have the money in this year's budget to design the prototype elementary school and get that ready to go. So we're going to be starting on that as soon as we possibly can. But there's a lot of work going on, and what you said is true. This district is going to be in a state of continuous construction. You'll never get out of it. And there's a lot of need here, and certainly I admire the leadership of the superintendent and the board in recognizing that and trying to work hard at meeting the needs of the future of this county, but doing it in a very understanding way. I personally live in Horry County. 30 to 40% of Horry County is in the service industry. And there's probably 20% of people that are out of work. Now, our personal situation may not be that dire, but there's a lot of people out here suffering right now. And they're trying to figure out what lies ahead in the future. And I think you've got to take that into account. I talked to one superintendent that I've known for 40 years, Eddie, who told me he's retired now, but he works in the upstate. He said that there are a number of superintendents up there that have dramatic needs based on growth, as we do, that are delaying the option as far as bond referendum based on their concern of the economy and the impact that the economic situation is having on their general population.
If I could just make a comment, Tony, I think a consequence of not doing a prototype is evident in Fox Bank and Bowen's Corner. Both nicely done schools, but very different flooring.
Different floor plan,
Different everything, which drives the cost up.
It drives the maintenance cost
And it drives
up.
the maintenance cost up. And not only that, we got free land at Fox Bank that cost us about $1.5 million to fix so we could put something on it. Thank you, but no thank you. We don't need that kind of free land. So, we've straightened out with lots of people. I take no credit for it. We've got experts in the field that now we have a good model that sure we'll tweak it. It won't look exactly the same. When I was in Darlington, we were building 2 elementaries with the very same floor plan, but they were going to look different. They were going to have different colors on the roofs and different little, cosmetic differences that wouldn't change the cost, but would give them its own identity, but it would be basically the same floor plan. When you can go to any Walmart in the country and pretty much know where you got to go to get what you got to get. And we're going to make them look better than a Walmart, but, and we're not going to waste money.
The rest of the document is an update on the 5-year plan. Many of the things we have accomplished that staff is certainly proud of, and I'm proud of, is if you look at the Mount Holly renovations, we covered all of that with Abigail money, and we were able to. We're about 90% complete on that project. We're working on the Bono warehouse and transferring that out of the district as far as a catch-all space. We have built the warehouse at Oakley. We built the warehouse over at Ben Riv for technology. There are a lot of things going on. The old lawyer building that we used to house next to the old Central Services office was transferred to the county, and the county, in lieu of payment, is going to do paving for us. And so we think we're making a lot of progress. You can look at it here. Now, I have put on the document, the staff and I have put on the document that postpone until further notice. We're working on those items now and placing them in priority order and making any changes that we need to make to the document. In August, you're going to get a revision of the master facility plan that gets into the maintenance area. But I'm real pleased to say that many of our maintenance projects have come in under budget, and we're redirecting those funds to the next priority items that we have within the maintenance and the upkeep of our buildings. I commend the staff here for their hard work and their dedication to Berkeley County. And I want to thank you for listening tonight. And if there are any questions I can answer for you, I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Parker, excuse me. Yeah, just a couple comments. And you and your team have done a good job. planning. And the 5-year capital project update is outstanding. You yourself have said many times and again tonight that funding is a major reason why we're behind schedule. And it is very likely a probable reason why we will continue to be behind schedule. If you, and I'm glad that the screen is up for our folks to see, because the projected 5-year budget with all the cost is around $189.3 million, and that's hard cost, not soft cost included. So that would be somewhere around $209 million for those projects that are already under plan. And if we do the 8% money based upon, let's say, $30 million per year, which is about what maybe a little bit more, maybe not. We're looking at least 7 years to fund this $200 million appropriately without any other type of funding. Now, this is information that is needed because our folks really want to know what the numbers would be and the accelerated plan if there was some additional money. But we have not, and rightfully so at this point, we haven't even discussed the high school in terms of planning statistically and amount of money and so forth. And you put out that a large high school of 1,800 students would be about $84 million hard money. If you add that, it'd probably be another 18 to 20 soft money for over $100 million, notwithstanding the land. We're not talking about the land acquisition. So a high school of 1,800 students would be in excess of $100 million. So you add that to the cost of the existing 5-year plan, and that would be in excess of $300 million. And it would take over a 10 or 11 year period to actually fund the projects with the high school. And I understand the comments about the state of the economy. I get it. Nobody wants to pay any more taxes, but let me just say this. There's a difference, in my opinion, it's my opinion only, because I know there are some opposing opinions. There's a difference in the school board raising taxes by millage, by decreeing unilaterally without any input and without citizens' comments or input of increasing their taxes on their property. There's a difference in us increasing millage rates and increasing taxes than offering our citizens a choice or a possible choice to fund these projects and not wait 11 years to have these projects funded. My only point is, as a board member, I feel like it is my responsibility to offer the public an opportunity to say yes or no to determine whether or not they're willing to put their money up and to sustain our package of growth adequately to house these students for the long term. So I understand, and I get it, Dr. Parker. I know that you and Dr. Ingram are in agreement, and probably most of the board members, that it's not a good time. And I agree, it's not a good time. There's no good time to raise taxes. But there is a difference in increasing millage and offering the opportunity for our citizens. And I'm not just talking, I said this last time, I don't want to bore the people. There is a difference in what we're trying to do now is accelerate to make sure that all of our communities have the same opportunities. And I'm not talking about just Cane Bay. I'm talking about the projects that we shelved and put on the back burner at Goose Creek High School and Hanahan and other areas of the county that we could actually possibly addressed much more quickly than waiting 10 to 11 years to have the money to complete the project. So the 5-year capital projects plan is in year 3. And, if we continue to do the same thing that we are doing now, it's going to be another 10 years. So the 5-year plan is going to run into 13 years. And that's my comment. I understand I'm probably speaking for myself because I haven't spoken to the other board members on this. I've talked to you, Dr. Parker. I've talked to Superintendent Ingram. I understand the complexity of the bond issue. And let me just address this $90 million thing. That is a matter of organization and planning and making sure that there is attention to detail on these contracts, where evidently there was some lacking in the past. We have you here, we have a good staff. They could monitor these things and make sure that the projects are on time and under budget. Thank you.
I have a response and just want to share a little bit. I understand it's close to Mr. Barrow's heart, what he's saying, and this same topic is something very close to my heart. It's something that's been on my mind since before I was even decided to run for the school board. Because Mr. Barrow's been an educator all his life, and he comes from that perspective, and I have immense respect for educators, or obviously I would not serve on the Berkeley County School Board. However, most of my adult life, I served working for the assessor's office. And what that means is I value real estate. And it means that I understand that when a $20 million industry comes to Berkeley County, we have that one building that's worth $20 million. For the same to equal, we have to get 400 plus houses. So I understand that Berkeley County has the lowest millage rate in the state of South Carolina. And so what that helps us to do is attract more industry, which all this growth, all these roads, all this building, all these factors that we have. I also understand from 21 years of working at the assessor's office exactly how, when taxes are raised, as previous school boards had done, it directly affects a lot of folks. I also understand in 2008, 2009, when we went through the second Great Depression, we call it the Great Recession, but it actually was a depression. I have the statistics and numbers that could prove it. How it financially hurt me. I understand that my job, my wife's been laid off. I understand that school teachers went 10 years without getting a raise in this county and many other counties. I understand that the plan that a lot of board members feel strongly about, and a plan that I've had all along, and Mr. Barrett is aware of this plan, is called a sales tax. Same as why Charleston County has money to build their schools. And with the sales tax, what we would do, and if this virus had not come upon us this year, we would have been able to implement this plan and go to the voters and ask for it. But with a sales tax, what we can do is we can get the money we need to build these schools without raising property taxes. Now you would ask, that sounds like a political answer. That sounds like a dishonest answer. No, it is not. It is what Charleston County and other counties do. Again, the voters would have to approve that sales tax, but not only would we go to the voters and say, hey, we need more money in a sales tax, which I believe the voters would feel quite fine as far as paying for our schools, because we have a plan which we've worked on since day one I've gotten on this board. But two, we would actually lower property taxes. And you say, well, how could we lower property taxes? Well, because with a sales tax, we would have more than enough money. We could fully disclose this. Now, unfortunately, this plan has been slowed down, as a lot of plans have slowed down. A lot of people, our unemployment in Berkeley County was less than 2%. Less than 2% just a couple months ago. Recently, it got as high as 15%. Do you know that just this last month, 4 million Americans did not pay on their mortgage? That doubled from the previous month that was 2 million. Again, I could sit up here and quote statistics. I could sit up here and talk till my face came blue. This is the life I've lived. So the plan that I strongly advise and am strongly for, will strongly work towards, have been strongly worked for, as soon as we meet the threshold with our accommodation sales tax in Berkeley County, I will suggest, as chairman of finance, and hopefully I will get approval from this board, is that we will put to the voters a sales tax referendum. We will have a plan articulated, fully transparent, and then the voters can decide on how to pay for our schools without raising property taxes. I could take a little child as an analogy. I always wondered good intentions versus results. My whole life I wondered, well, what if you got good intentions? Oh, I got good intentions. Good intentions. Okay? If the good intentions equal bad results, it's nonsense. I can try to help a little child cross across the road. Great intentions in the world. If that child runs away from my hand and gets run over by a street, does my good intentions matter or do the results matter? I am strongly opposed to a bond referendum. I am confident it would be defeated in Berkeley County. The trust that this school board lost before we came on this board is insane. We had a CFO that was embezzling, that was stealing. We didn't know even which buildings we had insurance on or paying. Everything was up and everything was down. Since day one of coming on this school board, we have had to fight day and night to correct so many problems. And again, I could sit up over all night talking about it. It's on public record. Anyone who wants to know the problems that this school board has addressed, it's all on public record. If you really want to know, you can find out. But a school bond referendum, completely good intentions would equal bad results. Thank you.
Anyone else? The other thing that we do have a drastic uptick in year 7 and 8. I think it goes to 50 million. But even without 1% you could pay, in 8 years you would have enough money. You would be right around $300 million. With a 1 cent sales tax in 2 years, you would have more than enough. I really have spent a lot of time thinking, pondering, working, looking at the numbers. I do agree it would be very hard to pass a bond referendum, and I think people would feel like that we were completely out of touch with the people in the county who have missed paychecks, because fortunately for the employees of the Berkeley County School District and for myself personally, I haven't missed a paycheck, but a lot of people have. So I think people would lose trust in our ability to understand the community.
And one of the things we're committed to doing, just to put it out there for the public that some people might not know, is one of our strong commitments is holding on to all of our teachers, not increasing class sizes, and being committed to our employees knowing that we will pay them. And that is part of our budget. Why we haven't done a step increase right now. That's why we've tightened our belt, why we are being so frugal when we don't know what the state's going to do. I publicly stated again, we are committed to keeping our employees employed and paying them fully. It's as simple as that.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Board chair report, upcoming dates and events. It is that time of year. In our meeting in July, we will start early. We will start at 4 o'clock. We will do a board workshop. We'll do we're working on some protocol work, and also we will be doing board member self-assessments. We're looking at doing our own assessment before we start the superintendent's evaluation. Spend some time looking at our service and our intentions and our actions, and then we'll go into committee meetings. So that will be a long day. So everybody, please, if you can plan to get off work and be here at 4 o'clock, we'll do some team building type workshop first, and then we'll go into committee meetings at pretty close to regular time, just depending on how things turn out. We will have a regular board meeting at the last meeting in July. That's not typical. We only normally have one, but the pressure of reopening school and COVID and the task force, you're going to have to take your vacation in between times because there's just too much work to do, and our communities are expecting a lot from us. So we can't only have one meeting in July this year. There has to be two. So hearing nothing else, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Mr. Ramsey to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Boy, it's raining a lot outside. Maybe we should keep talking. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.